In the tranquil village of Lynx Grove, nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests, life flowed like the gentle streams that crisscrossed the land. The villagers lived in harmony with nature, tending to their crops, raising livestock, and sharing tales by the warm glow of the evening hearth. Among them was a bright-eyed boy named Kael, whose adventurous spirit often pulled him towards the woods, dreaming of heroism and exploration. Kael, at the tender age of 12, was known for his unruly chestnut curls that danced in the wind and his insatiable curiosity. He spent countless afternoons chasing butterflies, climbing the gnarled trees, and concocting grand adventures with his best friends, Mira and Jorn. Mira was a fierce girl with a brave heart, and Jorn, a gentle giant with a kind soul. Together, they explored every nook and cranny of Lynx Grove, unaware of the dark shadows looming beyond their beloved village. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and purple, Kael and his friends gathered at their favorite spot, a meadow filled with wild flowers. They sprawled across the soft grass, sharing stories of legendary heroes who fought great evils and claimed their glory. What if we acted like heroes? Kael proposed, his eyes sparkling with mischief. We could save someone in trouble. Mira grinned, her long hair flowing in the breeze. What kind of trouble? Anything. Dragon attacking village, or cursed prince imprisoned in dark castle. Kael exclaimed, his imagination running wild. Jorn chuckled, shaking his massive head. We'd need sword for that. Or magical spell. Just as Kael's enthusiasm reached its peak, distant howl pierced the evening air, sending chill racing down their spines. The howl echoed ominously like the distant rumbling of an approaching storm. What was that? Mira whispered, her bravado wavering. Kael tried to shake off his unease. It's probably just wolfore. Before he could finish, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Beat of heavy, thunderous footsteps echoed through the trees, growing louder with every second. Panic seized them, and they scrambled to their feet, darting towards the village. As they reached the fringes of Lynx Grove, horrific sight met their eyes. Dark figures burst from the tree line, storming into the village. Like malevolent force in nature, they were orcs. Towering brutes with skin the color of decaying leaves and eyes glinting with malice. Run! Kael shouted, and the trio sprinted towards their homes, heart pounding in their chests. Ignoring the chaos erupting around them, they ducked into Kael's small, thatched roof cottage, where his mother stood wide-eyed, clutching broom-like weapon. Kael, get your sister and hide, she cried, her voice laced with fear. Kael's heart sank. His little sister, Nessa, was still playing in the garden with their dog, Bristle. Mira, Jorn, you go to the inn and warn everyone, he commanded, preparing to bolt outside. But, Kael, it's too dangerous. Mira protested, her voice trembling. Do it, he insisted, his tone broken. No argument. I'll get Nessa and join you. With one last look at his friends, he dashed out, propelled by the sheer need to protect those he cherished. The air was thick with chaos. Screams filled the night as the orcs laid waste to homes, shattering windows and toppling fences. Kael sprinted towards the garden, his senses heightening with each heartbeat. He spotted Nessa, her tiny frame curled up beside Bristle, unaware of the danger. Nessa, Kael exclaimed, swooping down to gather her in his arms. We have to go. Now, Bristle barked, sensing the urgency, and the trio ran back towards the cottage, only to be met with horrific sight. An orc stood at their door, a massive axe in hand, his grin wide and menacing. Kael froze for a moment, panic flooding his mind. This way, he urged, darting towards the side of the house, leading Nessa and Bristle into the dense thicket behind their cottage. They pressed themselves against the rough bark of towering tree, panting as muffled roars and the clanking of weapons echoed in the background. What do we do now? Nessa asked, her voice quaking. Kael glanced at his sister, tightening his grip around her shoulders. We wait for the right moment. Then we find safe place, he whispered. They crouched low, fear prickling at their skin, as they listened to the violence unfolding in their peaceful village. Minutes turned into hours, or so it felt. Suddenly, silencing their dread, a loud explosion echoed through the air, followed by frantic cries. Kael risked a peek through the thicket, his heart racing. A group of villagers had gathered near the town square, arming themselves with whatever they could find. Pitchforks, cooking pots, and old swords buried in dusty corners. Help! Kael heard voice cry out. It was Mira, her usually confident demeanor replaced with desperation. They're overpowering us. Surge of determination washed over Kael. He couldn't just hide while his friends and family fought for their lives. We have to help them, he insisted, gripping his sister's hand tighter as boldness waged war against fear. But we're just kids, Ness squeaked, fear flashing in her large eyes. Kael knelt beside her. We can make difference. Together, He glanced back at the chaos, where an orc's sinister laughter rang out. If we don't do something, we'll lose everyone. With that, Kael led Nessa deeper into the woods. We're going to take that trail to the square and join them. We just need to be brave. After what felt like an eternity of stealthy maneuvering, they reached vantage point overlooking the central square. The scene was devastating. Villagers fought valiantly against the orcs, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Kael tightened his fists, gritting his teeth as he watched an orc raise his axe towards Mira. No, he shouted, surging forward without thinking. Nessa pulled back on his sleeve, fear in her eyes. Kael, wait, but he couldn't wait. Anger surged through him like torrent, fueling his resolve. Years of daydreaming about being hero initiated primal instinct. He grabbed a thick branch from the ground, wielding it like sword. I have to protect them. With fierce determination, he charged into the fray. The first orc he encountered was surprised by the small boy's audacity, and Kael swung the branch with all his strength, hitting the creature squarely in the knee. The orc howled, stumbling backward, but before Kael could take another swing, two more orcs turned their attention toward him. Foolish boy. One of them growled, flexing his jagged teeth in menacing grin. Kael's heart raced, but he stood his ground. He couldn't retreat. Not now. He was fighting not just for himself, but for everyone he loved. Boy, get off him. Mira shouted, rushing in like tempest, brandishing broken spear. With one swift move, she plunged it into the nearest orc's side, sending him crashing to the ground. Kael's admiration for his friend surged, but there was no time to celebrate. This way, he shouted, guiding Nessa as they fought alongside their friends. An unyielding fear enveloped the square, but also a flicker of hope. With the three of them working together, they forged a path through the thrumming chaos. Kael dodged and weaved around attackers, pushing his way towards the other villagers. He could see Jorn at the edge of the fray, wrestling with an orc twice his size. Kael yelled for him, their eyes locking for just a moment as he pushed against the tide of battle. Look out! Jorn shouted, and Kael turned just in time to see another orc rushing towards him. Time seemed to slow as he sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the massive axe that swung above him, cleaving through the air like lightning. He cast a glance at Nessa, who was hiding behind a stack of crates, trembling but resolute. Stay there, he shouted, urging her to be safe, but Nessa's eyes met his with determination. She had seen too much to stand idly by. Kael, over here, Mira cried out, directing him to a group of villagers who had taken refuge behind Fountain. They wielded farming tools and improvised weapons, attempting to mount counterattack against the encroaching orcs. Kael, Mira, and Jorm surged forward, their spirits buoyed by newfound camaraderie. They formed line beside the other villagers, ready to stand against the darkness rallying at their doorstep. The villagers' voices blended into chorus of defiance, echoing through chaos. In the midst of the battle, hope emerged. Kael rallied the young and the old alike, encouraging them to push back against their attackers. We can't let them take Lynx Grove. Together, he shouted, raising his makeshift weapon high. Villagers cheered in response, feeling strength coalesce within their unity. Engulfed in adrenaline, Kael fought with newfound resolve, swinging his branch with every ounce of determination he could muster. The orcs had underestimated them, thinking their fear would paralyze the villagers. Little did they know, the heart of Lynx Grove beat fervently with bravery. The tide of battle began to shift. Amidst rousing cries, the villagers pushed the orcs back, sprinkling their determination onto the battlefield. Kael fought side by side with his friends, their movements instinctively synchronized as if they had trained for years. However, darkness soon loomed overhead. Kael felt a heavy presence behind him and turned to face the largest orc he had ever seen. Brute of unmatched size, standing tall and proud amidst the chaos. You think you can defeat us, little one? He bellowed, swinging massive axe that sent vibrations across the ground. Despite the fear clawing at his insides, Kael stood firm. We're not afraid of you, he shouted, even as uncertainty flickered in his chest. Suddenly, the orc lunged, swinging his axe down. Time seemed to freeze as Kael barely managed to sidestep, adrenaline coursing through him. He could feel the rush of wind as the blade missed him, the sharp tang of danger at the edge of his perception. Mira dashed forward, her spear poised to strike. Get away from him. She shouted, and with fierce determination, she aimed for the orc's side, managing to connect with a well-placed jab. The orc faltered, turning his furious gaze toward Mira. You will regret that, girl, he roared, bringing his axe down toward her. But before he could strike, Jorn, summoned by bravery, charged into the fray, leaping upon the orc's back and grappling with him in flurry of limbs. Kael's heart raced, but he was inspired by the courage of his friends. Together, Kael called out, and they dove into the chaos, coordinating their efforts in remarkable display of strength and unity. As they worked together diligently, the villagers began gaining ground, pushing the orcs further back into the surrounding trees. Kael felt the weight of hope rise within him as the tide of battle turned. With final rallying cry, the villagers advanced, forcing the remaining orcs to retreat into the depths of the forest. Panting heavily and wide-eyed from the gravity of the battle, Kael looked around at the aftermath. The village square lay littered with remnants of their confrontation. Broken tools, discarded armor, and signs of struggle. But what mattered most was that they had stood together, their home, their family. It was intact for now. As they regrouped, the villagers began to realize the cost of their victory. Many had fallen, and mourning hung thick as the elder villagers mourned their lost loved ones. The heaviness settled over Kael. It wasn't the triumphant heroism he had dreamt about. It was raw and heart-wrenching, burden heavier than he could bear. Kael glanced around, comforted by the presence of his friends. "We did it," he murmured, still in awe of their courage. "Yes," Jorn replied, patting Kael's shoulder, "but they may come again. Stronger. We need to prepare." Prepare? Nessa asked, her voice shaking. "But we fought them off. Can't we rest?" Kael knelt beside her, brushing her cheek with warmth. "We can rest for now, but we must also protect our home. We're stronger together, and we can't let fear control us." Mira nodded, her expression firm. "We'll train, learn how to defend ourselves. We've seen what can happen if we don't stand united." As night fell, casting shadows over Lynx Grove, the villagers gathered to mourn their losses and celebrate their newfound resilience. Together, they shared stories of bravery and loss, forging bonds that would withstand the test of time. In the days that followed, Kael, Mira, Jorn, and even Nessa dedicated themselves to honing their skills. They trained under the direction of the elder warriors, embracing the knowledge that could safeguard their village against any future threats. From sunup to sundown, they drilled in the fields, practicing with wooden swords and makeshift shields. They learned to defend not just themselves but the heart of Lynx Grove. As weeks became months, whispers of orc sightings became a mere footnote in their daily lives. The villagers grew stronger, brimming with a sense of purpose and unity forged from their shared ordeal. Kael often found himself daydreaming as he trained, imagining a day when no orc could threaten his home again. He knew deep in his heart that strength did not lie in swordplay alone, but in the spirit of togetherness that had brought them through the storm. Years later, as Kael stood atop a hill overlooking Lynx Grove, the sun setting in golden splendor, he fully embraced the truth. They had forged a bond that would be their greatest weapon, timeless intertwining of hope and dreams woven into the very fabric of their community. In that moment, he saw not just village, but family. Family ready to face whatever shadows might loom in the horizon. United, they stood resolute, fortified by the knowledge that they had the power to protect their home and the heart to fight for it. And as the stars twinkled in the night sky, Kael breathed in deeply, knowing their story was far from over. Lynx Grove would endure, bathed in light and resilience, forever standing together against the darkness.